Are Americans about to pay a whole lot less for prescription drugs? A lot has happened in the past few months, and it all culminated in a big announcement yesterday at the White House. President Trump, alongside the CEO of Pfizer, announcing that the drug maker will drop its prices for Medicaid patients and guarantee that pricing on newly launched drugs. They also agreed to participate in a direct-to-consumer purchasing platform. It would be called TrumpRx.com. Kind of reminds me of those GoodRx cards that you see at local pharmacists to find discounted drugs. This is sort of like that, except for now, Pfizer is the only drug maker on board. You buy the drugs straight from Pfizer, no middleman. And the savings are pretty significant. Take a look at this. Duvet, a treatment for menopause symptoms, typically $251 on average, would cost $30. Eucrisa, an ointment used to treat eczema, costs around $900 on average. It would drop to $162. Toviaz, a medication for overactive bladder, usually costs around $400. It would drop to $42. Some of those original prices vary depending on whether or not you have insurance and what kind of insurance plan you have. But for folks on Medicaid, those are some huge savings. Why would Pfizer do this? How did we get to this point? Well, a few things: the threat of tariffs, a strongly worded letter to drug makers, and one of President Trump's many executive orders. Let's get into it.
Order up!
Executive Order 14297 came out in May. It says Americans should not be forced to subsidize low-cost prescription drugs in other developed countries. Should drug manufacturers fail to offer American consumers the most favored nation lowest price, my administration will take additional aggressive action. Basically, he thinks Americans have been ripped off, and he wants drug companies to give us better drug prices. But he didn't stop there. In July, he sent a strongly worded letter to 17 of the big drug makers, making a few key demands: drop their rates for Medicaid patients, guarantee those low prices for newly launched drugs, find more savings for American patients, and participate in direct-to-consumer distribution models. He wrote, "If you refuse to step up, we will deploy every tool in our arsenal to protect American families." Not long after the executive order and the letter, we got to see exactly what he meant by aggressive action and tools in our arsenal. In July, President Trump threatened 200% tariffs on drug makers. In August, the threat went up to 250%. And last week, he announced a 100% tariff, applying to branded prescription drugs made outside of the United States. There are exceptions for companies who invest in manufacturing facilities in the U.S. And since January, 14 drug makers have announced billions of dollars in new facilities or expanded operations on American soil, including Novo Nordisk, which is expanding right here in the Triangle. Pfizer is the first company we know of to stem the threat with lower drug prices, making good on Trump's demands in his July letter. And you know, getting access to cheaper drugs is an important issue to Americans. It was a big win for former President Joe Biden when he announced a $35 insulin cap and Medicare drug price negotiations. A poll from the Kaiser Family Foundation last year found 82% of people think the cost of prescription drugs is unreasonable. 73% think there isn't enough government regulation to limit those prices. And a study from the Pharmaceutical Reform Alliance found 96% of people agree that prescription medications should be provided at a low cost to Americans. And it's not like Pfizer is a martyr here. The company's stock jumped 7% after yesterday's announcement, and it's on the rise again today. So, will this start a snowball effect with other companies following Pfizer's lead? And will this actually lead to large-scale price drops on prescription drugs for everyone, not just people on Medicaid? We'll have to wait and see. If the polling tells us anything, we will all be watching.